Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to start off with a little environmental issue. We have Tim Wheeler from the Perfect Road Project who's going to tell us about his ongoing adventures in environmental improvement in Sagaponic and elsewhere.
Hello, everyone. See you again. I was here May last year. My name is Tim Wheeler. I work with Perfect Earth Project. We're a small nonprofit. Started by a landscape designer out here in East Hampton, in East Montgomery. I am the Living Lands Long Island Regional Program member, and I have a few pieces of our work to share. Ready? You can go to the next slide.
Did you want me to do that one?
And also, I had a very bad case of pneumonia in February. My lungs are still recovering a bit, so I might feel a little out of breath at times. Great.
Okay.
Pretty good so far. So the last time I was here, I was kind of developing a very big piece of my work, which is free 1-hour site visits to any homeowner from Hampton Bays all the way to Montauk. Anyone can ask me to come, and I'll spend an hour outside, have a conversation. We can talk about landscaping practices. And I'll make recommendations on how to reduce chemicals, plant for wildlife, support biodiversity, maintain your lawn without drowning it all summer by irrigating too much, things like that. So I started this component of my work in about June. So when I was here in May last year, I was quite ready to do visits, but I've done maybe 75 visits so far. And I've had over 100 requests. It's been very busy. So very excited about this offering. So you can go to the next slide. It's a little map of homes that have requested me to come visit. So you can see, I've zoomed in a little bit, but a pretty good spread across the East End and South Fork. And some in Sagaponic, but I would like to have many more in Sagaponic. My work is partly funded by the Conic Land Trust. Perfect Earth got a grant from them for 3 years, and they're doing a whole bunch of water quality work, which perhaps you all know about, around Sagaponic and Georgia Pond. So I'm trying to focus on Sagaponic. I'm very excited to be here sharing this with everyone. I would love to come do a visit for anyone who's interested in the village. You can go to the next. I'll just share a little bit about some of what I recommend. So this, I shared this picture last year. This is right on the highway. If you're going out of the center of Bridgehampton, it's an architect studio or something. But this lawn here, this garden, I should say, was lawn before and designed to support wildlife and not in chemicals, not in irrigating, and you can keep an eye on that as it develops throughout the spring and summer. If you're interested in having a garden or a lawn like that, give me a call. We can talk about it. Just have a few more pictures here of what you can do. So this was previously lawn, and kind of eaten into by gardens that are filled with plants for pollinators to support wildlife and biodiversity. And if you don't want a whole bunch of flowers, if you want it to look a little bit more controlled, you can do something like this, just a path with shorter grasses, not as much deadheading and maintenance, buying a bunch of plants. One of the big things that we talk about is biomass management. That's all the leaves, twigs, branches. If you cut down a tree, what do you do with the tree? Usually pay someone to take it away, chip it up, sending all this stuff, your grass clippings to the dump every year. You're paying someone to fill up our landfills and dump. Talk to people a lot about what if you keep all of the biomass that your property is producing for itself on the property instead of sending all your grass clippings away. You can leave the clippings in the lawn, use mulching blades on the mower, and then you don't have to pay for fertilizers that go into our waterways, go into Sac Pond, go into Georgia Pond, and produce all kinds of harmful effects. Here's another picture. This is a property on Georgia Pond that I'm sure some of you have lawns that would fit right in where all that beautiful planting is. And could you imagine changing it to native grasses and native flowers? Having a beautiful path go through it. You could go for a walk in the morning before your day starts or at the end of the day or anything like that. Go ahead to the next one. Here's another way that we manage biomass for a field like that, a meadow. We would say leave it up all through the winter. You get all this interest from seed heads and birds and animals that come in and use the space during the winter. And then cut it all down sometime in late winter, early spring. And our founder, Edwina, this is on her property, and she creates this haystack from a native grass meadow. And something over the last couple of winters has started to move in. There's a big kind of like bear looking den on the inside of that haystack that she doesn't know what's in there, but it seems kind of scary to me. You can go to the next one. Here's another picture just to inspire you. These log walls are a way to, if you have a branch come down, if you take a tree down, put up a log wall instead of, shipping all that great wood away. Dead wood is really amazing for supporting wildlife and biodiversity. Insects can move in, and then all the things that insects support, like birds and small mammals and the cycle of life, the food chain. Everyone learned about that in second grade, right? Food chain, food web. That's what we're trying to support here. Okay. And then two other things that we're working on, aside from my site visits, we're doing workshops. We just had a workshop. This is a photo from a couple of weeks ago. We were at the Springs Presbyterian Church, if anybody knows that church in Springs. We had a landscape therapy workshop because we're talking about your relationship with your property, and to have a good relationship, sometimes you need to go to therapy. So we had over 50 people come to this event. Presentation, we had a Q&A with experts, and it was a really big hit. And we're going to be having at least 3 more through the rest of 2025 through a partnership with Peconic Estuary Partnership. And so you can keep an eye out for that. I think the next one might be on Shelter Island. I have an interested group. And then we have a very exciting symposium coming up about managing invasives. It's not out here. It's going to be at Stone Barns, which is in Westchester County. Perhaps you've heard of Stone Barns before. It's a very, very beautiful venue. It's going to be an all-day event if anyone's interested, May 7th. And yeah, perhaps I'll see some of you there. And then you can go to the last slide, which is my QR code again, if anyone's interested in signing up for a visit. Oh, I got a couple. That's all right. You can fill out our little intake form. Site visits, I heard there might be a lawyer here today. Site visits are really good before or after permitting from the village. If you over clearing restrictions or
You're pushing it.
You're such a good student.
Your clients might say, wow, that's really amazing. You brought in this expert for free. Just a thought. So I think that's all that I have. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Yeah, so did your company present at the Bridgehampton Club this past fall?
Yes, we did.
Okay, that was really well done. That was another one of your founders, I guess,
Yeah,
who did
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I think if you just let us know when your next group presentation, because it looks like you got a fair amount of people in Bridgehampton involved, so.
How do you get the word out? I'm not gonna say the word promote.
All kinds of ways. So far, it's almost promoting itself. I've been very, very busy with site visits. We, have a newsletter that goes out. There's gonna be a story, 27 East, that I've been asked to get a photo of myself, and I don't really know how I feel about that, but they're holding the story to get a photo of me, so I think I have to get on that.
Tim, is there a website that you have, or do they go through Platonic Land Trust?
We have our own website. It's perfectearthproject.org. Sometimes we stylize perfect as PRFCT, but it's spelled all the way out for our website. Yeah. And you can find information about events, sign up for our newsletter. You can request a visit with me through our intake form, which is linked there. And we're hoping we're going to be doing a big push in the coming months to start building a resource library on our website of, how do you irrigate a lawn correctly so that you don't need fertilizer? How do you talk to your landscaper about transitioning from chemicals to no chemicals? How do you pick the best native plants for your flower?
Do you use Instagram?
We have an Instagram. Yes, Perfect Earth has an Instagram. I'm not on Instagram myself. Perfect Earth Project. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
For anyone who sees this online, this meeting, we hope people will, and that's the reason we have guys like Tim Wheeler in, is we would hope that people would at least try, maybe part of their yard, try this type of thing out. The insects that show up, I found are really fun to watch. The butterflies, the bees, all that kind of stuff. There are really unusual things out there which you only get to see when you go native. So it's a good thing to do. And the overspraying of properties does happen quite a bit. Anyway, I'll do a little presentation on looking for ticks at a later meeting, but it's very easy to check your property and see if you really need to be spraying for ticks. Maybe we could eliminate some of the chemicals that are being used, because many of them are indiscriminate. They kill things that are really important to our environment. Anyway, moving on. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim.
Site plan application of 493 Sagaponic LLC. This is not a public hearing. It's an informational presentation of both the applicant and our consultants. We will have a public hearing on April 16th, so anyone on the internet watching these plans available at Village Hall to be perused. Anyone who wants to make comments on them, find out what's going on. This is the latest set of plans for the property. Who do we start with? You or the consultants? Or
I'm Carl Benacasa, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York, for the applicant. I think we'll just defer to the engineering and Mr. Warren.
okay.
So we just received them, so I'm sort of reviewing them along with you.
Rich, do you want to go first?
Sure, happy to. Richard Warren of InterScience here on behalf of the Village of Sagaponic. This is a continuing review of an application at 493 Sag Main Street. You have a piece of property that has a slope on it. That.
Excuse me, Rich, do you want me to pull up what document?
Why don't you put up the Aris Design site plan?
Got it, okay.
So you have a piece of property that has a slope on it that rises from Sag Main Street, rising towards the back of the property. And in order to create, and you can see where the building envelope is on this particular drawing. You can see the building envelope stretches within the area where you have some changes in grade. So in order to create a level spot to actually build a house, you actually have to do some site work on the property. In a way, it's not completely dissimilar to what happened at 53 Sag Main Street. That was Hucklehoven, although they did their site work before they got approvals. And we had to work our way through that. But you do have a number of properties in the village that do have this kind of change in grade, that in order to accommodate development, you have to do some grading. When we first saw this application before, if you remember, they had a house with, between the house and the street front, they had a driveway that was leading down to a basement garage. So you had a fairly extensive excavation between the house and the street front. And so that was something that in this plan was eliminated. So essentially, from the plans, to summarize the plans that were changed, the residence was redesigned. It's more, slightly more compact than what was there before. That's a picture of the home. They've actually done I think a very nice job to create a handsome home architecturally in Sagaponack. The garage below the residence, along with the driveway, the retaining walls, they were eliminated from the plan. And you now have a single at-grade driveway that passes in front of the house around to the side of the house, where they now have the garage facing to the north. So the garage doors actually face the property line instead of the street. They adjusted the grading plan on this project so that they originally had several terraces behind the house in order to deal with the grade changes. Now it's just a gentle slope from the back of the house back towards the swimming pool and the tennis court. But it does require some grading in order to accommodate that. The fire pit and the dining terrace that they had originally proposed have been eliminated. They provided top and bottom of wall elevations for the tennis court. Before, they had a tennis court that didn't meet the requirements for a sunken court. It is now compliant with those. We'd have to have John Woodsman take a look at the plans as the building inspector to determine compliance. But as you'll remember, this was a tennis court that was approved in a variance by the town of Southampton before the village in terms of setback. And the village attorneys determined that they are eligible to use that variance for the positioning of it. However, they still have to meet the other requirements of the village relative to it being sunken on the property. You'll see on the tennis court, they have two storage areas. There's the pool equipment up at the northern side of the then they will be depressed. So actually it's a nice feature that the pool equipment now will be hidden from view, and also from a noise attenuation point of view, it's built into the wall that surrounds the tennis court. And then they have a small storage area towards the southern part of the tennis court, I guess, for tennis equipment. Their site plan shows sanitary systems now. That's on this drawing, it's the blue lines that are shown between the house and the street front. It's an IA system. And then there's another one back by the pool house, behind the pool house, for the operation of the pool house. They've changed the drainage plan for the property. They've adjusted it, and they've put French drains around the east, north, and south sides of the terraces that are on the east side of the residence, and they lead to dry wells. They reduced the volume of fill that was going to be excavated because this is a slope. It's essentially an export of fill in order to do the grading to create the level spot for the residents, and they reduced that by approximately 30%. So in terms of my comments for it, the tennis court, now it appears to be compliant. The only thing that we don't see on the plans are the acoustical barrier that's required by the code. And that's something that should be discussed with John Woodsma in his review of the actual plans for this when it comes in for building permit. The sanitary systems are identified on this plan, and they're shown as IA systems, but we don't have a plan that's designed by the sanitary engineer. I've asked that the applicant advises of the status of the plans at the health department, because obviously you have to get health department approval to install those. So what's the status of the approval of those? And if there is a plan by an engineer, they should submit it. So this way we know that we're looking at something that's consistent with what the health department is looking at. For the grading and fill calculations, they have provided a revised grading plan for the property. And the grading is effectively is a cutting of the slope, as I mentioned. And the proposed contours are such that the proposed grading won't impact the neighboring properties because it's now, essentially creating a depression on this site. So it's not as though you're filling or you're doing something that's going to impact adjoining properties with bringing in fill. Where here the slopes will now be directed interior towards the property. Again, the 10-foot cut that was originally required for the driveway has been eliminated. The terracing has been eliminated. The change in grade from the back of the property to the front of the property is about 6 feet. And over the course of the distance from back to front, there's anywhere between a 1 and a 4 foot cut into the hillside. They provided a breakdown of the cut and fill volumes. And I just suggested the village engineer review those and offer his comments about the acceptability of the grading plan. You'll see on this plan the limit of disturbance, which is the red line around the perimeter. It's effectively the entire site, but you'll see that there are hedgerows around the perimeter and they exist on the property. And in as much as those hedgerows are inside the limit of disturbance, I asked the applicant to advise whether or not there's an intention to remove the hedgerows that are there or remove them and replace them, because I think one of the things that the village is looking at, as they did with the architecture and the driveway, is how is this going to fit within the prevailing character of the neighborhood. So it would be good to hear from the applicant about what's the intention with the hedgerows that are on the north and south side of the property. Stormwater runoff control, they show their plans meeting a 3-inch runoff capability, and they've also provided 4 inches of runoff storage capability around the house. And as much as this house is sitting at the lower part of the topography, they put in some French drains around the east side of the house and the north and south side of the house to capture water that may be coming down that hillside, and they provided 4 inches of storage capacity for that. So again, the village engineer should look at that. The survey for the property has lot coverage calculations on it, and they show the maximum coverage, and it also shows what's proposed, and it shows that it's compliant with that. Although there's a notation on the survey that says the lot coverage comes from the architectural plans. When I looked at the architectural plans, the site plan for the improvements behind the residence are slightly different and smaller than what's actually proposed on the Aris design plan. So I had a discussion with Steve Naroda of Aris Design to find out, whether or not the survey actually reflected the plan that we're looking at right now on the screen. And he indicated that, yes, they provided that information. So it's actually the notation on the survey, instead of saying architectural plans, it should have been the landscape architectural plans, is where the coverage calculations came from. We had asked about some large trees on the property in the back, but about whether they're going to be protected, and they've identified those trees which are going to be protected and left on the plan. They now show swimming pool filtration equipment, pool enclosure fencing. So during the last approval process, during the last review process, we received 2 letters of objection. They were copied to me directly from neighbors who were opposed to the project, and they raised objections about the significant alteration of the topography to allow the installation of the subterranean garage in the lower level that opened to the rear of the home. I believe with this plan that the applicant has addressed those concerns, although the public has the right to speak if and when you have a public hearing on this. But I think they have taken measures to try to deal with that by the elimination of the driveway that went down below, and the grading and the 10-foot high retaining walls that were between the house and the street, and also the changing in the grading on this property. I think hopefully everyone realizes, including the neighbors that were looking at it, that this is a sloped property, and in order to create a place to put a house, you do have to do some grading to create a level spot. And I think that they've done a fair job in terms of how to do that. And the only way you can really do it is to do it as a cut. If you did it as a fill, then you're going to affect the neighbors, meaning if you have to fill it to create a level spot, which would then impact the neighbors. But doing it as a cut, you're actually lowering the level where the house is actually going to be as it relates to existing grade. So, but I believe this plan did address the neighbors' concerns. So I guess we're at a point where, Kevin can offer his comments relative to it, and the board would need to determine if they're gonna hold a public hearing. Sounds like you're going to make a public hearing on April 16th, so that's good, to let anybody who has any comments relative to the plan speak to it. So I'm here to answer any questions.
Mayor, can I ask a quick question about? Rich, thank you for your thorough report as usual. Just a couple of questions if I can hit some of the high points.
Yeah.
On sheet L1, it identifies what trees are gonna be kept and what trees are gonna go. Under the village code section 245-67C, with landscaping and screening, the AHRB did approve this building design. Always has that tension between the landscaping kind of complements the structure and vice versa. Do you have any opinion on this? The next row, yep, that's the one. On the net losses of these trees and the replacements, number one, and maybe this is even a question for the public hearing, Carl, if you want to bring it up then. But Rich, I'd like your opinion on the net losses on the trees and whether it's reasonable on replacement and removal, and then also just the comments on what the proposed hedgerow is laid out to be.
Yeah, so they are taking down a couple of large beech trees. You'll see those, the ones on this drawing are the ones with the X's. They're towards the back of the property, back in the area near where the tennis court is going. I'd hope that some of those trees would remain, but I guess it's up to the village to decide whether or not that's something that is going to be required to be left. I don't know the village's position relative to owners being able to take down trees on their property. The trees are located deep in the back of the property. So from a street front point of view, you probably wouldn't see them because you have to look through the house to see them, although they are up on the hill higher than the house. But at least they provided what we asked for, which was identify the trees that were going to be removed versus the trees that are going to remain. So this plan shows existing overgrown hedges along the front part of the property, because this is the existing conditions plan. And when you look at the site plan, it shows those hedges and additional hedges around the back. I don't know whether or not those, so you'll see now they're showing hedges all the way around the property. I don't know what they're intending to do with the existing overgrown hedge, if it's going to stay or not, because if it is going to stay, then you would think that you might want to be moving the project limiting fence to the inside of those as opposed on the exterior property line. So I don't know if I answered your question, but.
Yeah, no, that was just I just want to make the point that to the developer, you just might want to address that hedgerow question, because I know that the ARB brings that up. And it's beyond their jurisdiction. It really is the jurisdiction of the planning board, but we want to make sure that it just gets addressed, because as they do it, they look at the site more, they have a segmented view. We want to make sure it just holistically fits.
Right, and it's important to make sure those hedgerows in the back where you have a tennis court that was issued pursuant to a variance by the town of Southampton, that you actually have that protection for the neighbors along those property lines.
That was my next point. You got it on the tennis court. Yes, on that existing variance. Thank you, Rich. That's perfect. That covers my comments.
Okay, and I should have mentioned this is a type 2 action under secret, so the village doesn't have to do anything further relative to environmental quality review from a secret perspective. Doesn't mean you can't ask questions of the applicant, but from a secret perspective, there's nothing else that the village needs to do relative to secret.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Questions? Yes, questions? Go ahead. So this is, Rich, this is basically almost a complete redesign from the initial proposal. Is that correct? Or I mean, I know from the aspect of the design of the house and everything, and I guess the AHRB has commented on this already.
Approved.
They have approved it. Okay.
Yes, they approved it.
So this is, the front looks totally different from when they originally planned this.
Totally different house, yeah.
Is there any changes to the design of the HRP? Is there any conditions based on their approval? Any-
That I don't know. I did not get a copy of their approval, but in terms of the site plan, I would say that from the swimming pool west is where the bulk of the changes happened on this property. They changed the grades leading to the house, they changed the grades around the house, they changed the footprint of the house, the patios, the driveways. The swimming pool, the pool house, and the tennis court remained pretty much the same, although there's some slight variations to that in terms of the pool equipment and the storage area and the retaining walls. So,
Yeah,
but
I'm
most of
happy
it
to
happened on the western half of the property.
I'm happy to see the change in the front of the house. That was not good for us.
Yes.
I'll make one comment.
Yeah.
I went to all the different HRPs. They significantly went back 3 or 4 times, so this thing has been changed. You know, they talked about trees, they talked about the actual site plan, they've talked about and sent the group back to the woodshed, I think 4 times at which is where, so they were pretty meticulous as far as how they looked at this and so forth. So it's just a comment that to me, they did, you know, they went up and out and it's a completely different house.
I guess to start further with the trees and the hedges. I mean, is that kind of enough of you? I would like them to keep that.
Topography.
Yeah.
I have a question. What if they move the tennis court east and save the trees?
Well, I think
That's
Rich said, I looked at the property,
Yeah.
I didn't inventory the trees, but there were beech trees, which
Yeah, right here.
we know are problematic.
If
And it could be why they're
the
probably.
tennis courts, if the tennis court stays,
Yeah,
if it gets moved, though, you could save the trees.
so I probably think that would be ideal, but the problem is that where the tennis court is located was pursuant to a 1970
Oh, that's right.
something variance.
Yeah, I know that.
So that envelope where it has to stay.
Okay.
is pretty much what the tennis court's
But
got.
the initial proposal did, it wasn't even sunken. So
Yeah.
at least now it's sunken.
Right, right. And there's also a rear yard lot coverage issue. And if you start moving it back, you probably need more variances in order to do that.
Okay,
This is
thanks.
the principal rear yard setback that's there.
And the other comment is that I know that there was significant pushback from the community regarding where the garage was. The garage was in the front of the house, right in front of the front door, and they made a significant move to move it to the side so that quote unquote, it's not gonna look like a used car lot.
But they're able to park 8 cars, 9 cars, 8 spaces. Here's an ordinance to us. There's the garage, and then there's the front. Here's the garage.
It's showing 7 plus 2 on the ground.
Thank you that they would park on.
Right, where does everyone park while it's being built? That's. Oh, yeah, that's not him, okay, sorry.
Steve Ferris design. We have that shown on the erosion control plan too, if you want to see where the park contractors when they park, and start mobilizing.
Yeah.
Our site will mobilize.
You have it?
Should be-
Okay, good.
1-1.
101, and there it is.
The contract, yes.
You see that up front? This dashed area. Oh, no, that's stuck.
Trying to get a stockpile area as a contracted parking, and we're trying to utilize the existing.
Okay, I see it.
entrance. Yeah, right. Really try to be sensitive to the site as much as we can.
Steve, are you gonna cut that final driveway at the end of the project?
Yeah, we would want to do that at the end.
Right.
We want to to keep the one on the north as long as possible. And then when it's time to establish that southern entrance, we'll do that. And to answer the question about the existing hedge, we know it needs to be rejuvenated. So we need to go in there, cut it back a little bit, maybe remove some of the old wood in there. So that's why we had limit disturbance outside, because we knew we got to go in there, and maybe dig a little bit or cut into the existing roots or something, so various things to help maintain the existing hedge. So that's why we had it there, but we can adjust that. That's easy. And it's going to remain, that we just want to add on to it as we go east. For the screening.
In the rear.
In the rear, yeah, as we go east, in the rear and around for the next door.
That makes sense, where you put the project clearing limits,
Right.
yeah, because you're gonna go into it.
We're gonna go into it. That's why we want to be cautious, and we don't want to misrepresent what we're doing. We want to make sure that we want to keep as much as possible. We have to rejuvenate it.
Yeah, the current condition of the hedge is pretty bad. It hasn't
It's been abandoned for a while.
in many years, so you might have to supplement some plants too.
Right. So you might be digging holes, you might be planting additional plantings, that kind of thing. So,
Right. I'd like to not see a hedge between the house and the street. Have some view to the architecture. A lot of the houses now, they put up a 12-foot hedge. And all of a sudden the community is lost in a sense, you drive through a tunnel. So if we can keep the street front, you can frame the house with architecture, with the architecture of the house, but not completely obliterate it.
yeah, and that was an intent, is to just have those, see the clumps of trees
Yeah.
along the west edge, along the streets. Sort of complementing the architecture, it slopes up and not a hedge.
Right.
Because now that all the parking's been shifted to the north, it sort of blocks, we have that clump of plantings up there on the north side by the park.
Yeah.
The previous one, Bill's right, though, you have a hedge that's in the front there.
Yeah, because we had that tension of having that parking court there and trying to screen it. Now we don't have that issue.
No, it looks good. And I really appreciate you taking the time to work with the architectural review board.
Yeah, that's quite a nice team for sure.
Bill, you should get Kevin's comments too. You still have Kevin.
Oh.
I thought you guys forgot about me.
Just go away.
Well, good afternoon. Are you guys ready for my input, or is now a good time? Okay, great.
Yes.
It's Kevin Peterman from LKMA as the village engineer. Once again, thank you, Rich, for your thorough review and discussion of the project. As mentioned, this application has appeared before the board in the past. We understand the current design has been approved by the Village Architectural Review Board, and that the applicant is now seeking site plan approval in accordance with Village Code 245, Section 65F, where the development involves modifications to the site's existing topography. Our review focused on the plans prepared by Reyes Design, entitled Draft 493 Sag Main Road Submission Set, last revised February 18th, 2025. And we have a few minor comments. So from an engineering perspective, just a few items that we'd like to discuss. Number one, I think Rich touched on this, but regarding Village Code 245, Section
Kevin?
30.
What plan do you want me to put up on the screen as you go through your report?
Let's have open, how about L3? Preliminary site plan. That is sheet 6 of 8.
You met. Okay.
3A, you said?
Sheet L3, and it's page 6 of 8.
There you go.
That's the one. Perfect. Thank you, Roby. So regarding the sunken tennis court, Rich mentioned this, but I do not appear the plans contain any sort of acoustic barrier, and that is a village code requirement. So we would just ask that that be considered as the project moves forward. Number two, we recommend that the applicant clearly depict the location of all existing and proposed underground utilities. We see on this plan that there's just kind of one line that's labeled proposed underground utilities. And, in that line, there's underground electric, underground water, potentially gas, so we just want to see those things depicted on the plan to demonstrate that those utilities can be installed with the proper offsets, the minimum required offsets. Number three, soil borings indicate that dry wells 4B and 4C, so those are just east of the patio to the residence. Soil borings indicate that those dry wells should probably be lowered by 1 to 2 feet. And the reason we recommend that is the bottom elevation of those drainage leaching structures are right at the point where we've got not good leaching soil meeting the boundary of good leaching soil. And so the deeper we drop those structures, or the deeper the applicant drops those structures, the better those structures will perform as far as leaching is concerned. And so we would just recommend that the applicant take a look at that, maybe consider dropping them a foot to promote adequate leaching. Number 4, on the west side, so the main entrance to the residence, just in front of the main like front door to the residence. It looks like the drainage design, exactly, Rhodey, right in that area. It appears that portions of the driveway in this area are not captured by the drainage system. And so we would just ask the applicant to look into that a little bit further and make sure they are capturing everything in a, established drainage system. And further regarding the drainage system, so we can zoom in a little bit to the 2 catch basins on the north side of the driveway. As you wrap around the driveway to the garage, there's 2 catch basins.
These
Yep.
two.
Yes, exactly, those 2. And so we see the grade elevations there of about elevation 26, and we're seeing an invert elevation of 25, which means the top of the pipe is going to be at elevation 25.5 plus or minus, which leaves, somewhere between 4 to 6 inches of cover above that pipe. Generally, we, don't recommend that. Usually the manufacturers of the plastic pipe recommend 2 feet of cover. So just ask the applicant to look into that a little bit further, make sure everything's good to go there. And number 6, an export permit from the village building inspector may be required for a net export of 4,347 cubic yards of material. And that does seem like a large number, but it is significantly less than what was proposed in the first round of this project. So we do see some improvements as far as the site design and grading is concerned. Lastly, as the total disturbed area exceeds 1 acre, a stormwater pollution prevention plan is required. The applicant has submitted a SWIP, which has been reviewed, and comments were provided separately. Outside of these comments, I am available to answer any questions you guys may have.
Kevin, your SWIP will be reviewed with the building inspector on the issuance of the building permit?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
The SWIP will be reviewed with the building permit with the building inspector?
No, we have it now.
Oh,
He's
we
got
have
it.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, it's been reviewed and comments have been issued.
Oh, you have, okay.
Could you speak a little bit about the sources of that 4,000 something cubic yards of fill removed? I know a tennis court is something like that, it's over 1,000 cubic yards. Where else does that material come from?
The exported material, is that the question? Talk about that a little bit. So the applicant may be able to speak to this a little further than I can, but Brody, in the bottom left-hand corner of that sheet you have open now is the earthwork calculations.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yep.
sheet you're wrong.
Back up.
L3.
Yeah, just scroll down to the
Over
bottom
here.
part of that
You
sheet.
just,
There you go.
Oops, sorry. Roll too far.
What I will say about the earthwork calculations quick is we went through them and they seem reasonable. As Rich mentioned before, the site has some pretty unfortunate topography. And so if you want to do anything to the site, the best way to do it and the most conservative approach would be to cut into the hillside rather than add fill to the hillside. And by using that approach, you try to retain the existing surface flow. So the neighbors are protected, the applicant's not going to be discharging onto the neighbors. But as far as the quantity and the large scale of cut, we're looking at, a sunken tennis court that's sunken 4 feet. We're looking at a new swimming pool, a house with a basement, then the excavation for the drainage systems and the sanitary systems. So there is a decent amount of cut associated with the project.
Great, thank you.
Of course.
I have just an add-on question, just because I'm not significantly knowledgeable, but that 4,673, is that a huge amount? Is that there are bigger ones that you've seen?
It's a lot.
Yeah, I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot, but I just, have you seen larger amounts and so forth? Number one, within our area, but number two, within the relegated.
Good question. So this, I would say, in my opinion, this is probably one of the larger ones that we've seen in the village as far as site plan applications are concerned. In the realm of other, residential developments and even commercial developments, I don't think this is out of character. We do see a topographic change on the property, so it's inevitable. And I do believe the applicant has made an effort to, limit the amount of earthwork required. And so I can acknowledge that. But that's really as much as I can say.
How many acres is it on?
1.9 acres, I believe, is the size of the property.
And you had the other large application where we had this kind of circumstance was at 53 Sag Main Street further north, where they had actually done the excavation before they came in. And that's actually what kind of triggered them to come in. But that project has been developed and home and swimming pool, and it all pitches internal now, such as what's going to happen here on this property once it's developed.
And, to that end, with this large scale net export of material, it's going to be very important that the construction entrance is maintained, that crushed stone entrance is maintained, because there's going to be probably a decent amount of truck traffic navigating in and out of the site with all of the export that's going to be happening. So it's going to be very important to maintain some of your soil erosion and sediment control practices.
Kevin, have you reviewed, sheet 3.0? Just on the amount of the fill that's going to be removed, it generally looks like, kind of general comments, but the front lawn looks like the elevations will remain generally the same.
I would agree.
Like, because I see 23 and 24 and 25 as it slopes up to the house, generally match up almost identically with the existing grade of the front lawn.
Yeah, we tried to make the parking part right at the existing grade.
And then as you move past the house into the backyard, I see that it does even on the house maintain some of the slopes of 28 to 31 as it goes back to the north and south sides. So really it does match up with the existing grades even after post-construction on the site plan for the neighboring properties.
Exactly.
And if you look at it, and just again, so just because I'm not an engineer, I'm a lawyer, I just want to make sure I have my head checked around this. On the backside, if you look at the slope between the pool house and the tennis court, you've got a 35-foot slope, and generally that backyard, you have a 35-foot elevation, and generally the backyard has a fairly stable 34 to 35-foot existing condition.
Right. Yes. Yeah. We try not to disturb it as little as possible, just to keep those trees.
Yeah.
We want to grade as little as possible there.
Thank you.
Other questions?
What kind of tree are we detecting by the driveway?
At the front, I think the holly.
Yes, the holly, okay, I see that.
You gentlemen have questions of the consultants?
No, all the comments are very clear to us. Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to thank Mr. Peterman and Mr. Warren for their thoughtful insights. We're not going to have any trouble complying with the conditions, although most of them are observations. I know that Rich had asked about the status of the septic design. John Kowalski is our engineer. We'll get the current engineering specs for septic to, I think, John, right?
Yep.
The board doesn't necessarily need to see those.
Correct.
And obviously, before we get a building permit, we need the health department red stamp.
Right.
As far as processing before this board, as has been noted, the Councilman Landis noted that the did I misstate you?
No.
I thought.
She's mumbling.
You're just the first person to ever
Call the council and.
Well, His Honor, Councilman Lane has mentioned earlier that during the ARB process, the board obtained and was subject to, the process was subject to public scrutiny and public comment at multiple times with multiple participants, all of whom neighbors to this lot. During the first portion of this application, we did have public comment received into the record. Given the way this process has proceeded, given the way that the ARB went from unanimously rejecting to unanimously supporting the redesign, which was incredibly substantial, I think you'll all agree it's a different house, with public input. Given the fact that the grading as proposed, as Mr. Warren noted, poses no real impact to any neighboring lot. We would ask that this board forego a public hearing and just adjourn for a decision, or perhaps a decision today if appropriate.
No, we're gonna have a public hearing, just cover us. I know some of the people objecting, and I think they've had Article 78s in the past, and I think the quickest, cleanest way to do this is have a public hearing and make sure everybody's points are taken, and end of 30 days, we're looking better without any legal hindrance.
I'll work with council.
I mean, we're not trying to slow you down, really, just want to make sure.
No, we totally
We'd like to
appreciate
be done with it and not have it.
Your proposals dramatically changed from the initial, so, and that's what spurred the reaction, so we feel we need to have a public hearing.
We could schedule it for the next meeting.
And if possible, if could I work with you on perhaps having a draft resolution of adoption available at that meeting, the same meeting?
Yeah, if your design team's able to get with the engineers and the consultant to have those cleared, and those get cleared by our consultants ahead of time. And we can certainly work towards that. Again, obviously, it's a public hearing, so we want to see what the public has.
Some comments.
Very often, a lot of smart people in the village of Sagaponic, so we get a better project almost always with public hearings and public comment becomes a better process. So we can see if we'll certainly work towards it if all indications are going that way.
Great. This has been a thorough process for us, so we appreciate any consideration in that regard.
And it's reflected in the work product 48 HRB, as the trustees have said, it was extensive before that, it's a different house.
Absolutely. Thank you. So when's the next meeting?
April 16th.
Pay your taxes.
Sorry?
Pay your taxes and then.
I'm pretty sure they're paid in advance. Brian, we'll be in touch with you. Right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. The house on here. It's not tough. I need a resolution to set that public hearing there.
Okay, I propose setting a public hearing to review the on the 493 Sagaponic LLC.
I'll second that.
That will be-
April 16th
At 3 p.m.
at 3 p.m. You got a second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes. They look okay from the last meeting. Anybody have a correction?
I'm good with it.
We still have the two consultants
Oh,
on
right.
board here, Bill, do you still need
Sorry,
them?
guys. I think we're done with them, right? There's nothing else.
No, I don't think there's
Yeah,
anything else.
thank you very much. We appreciate your help with us. You're free to go to the beach.
Do you need us to cue in on the hearing?
I would say yes.
Yes,
To have
yes.
them attend.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll see you next month.
Just thought I'd check in.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Everybody.
Thanks.
Gentlemen,
Have a good afternoon.
you too.
Yeah. We're all good with the minutes? We have a second, all in favor? Aye.
I'm sorry, who seconded? You did.
Oh. Beach renourishment project. If I were them, I'd be afraid I couldn't finish it by the time it's over.
Well, they certainly are up against a clock. Was on a meeting again this morning. They have them every Wednesday at 10 a.m. The Texas, which is the dredge that's working on the east end, has placed 363,000 cubic yards of sand on the beach. However, they are up against some pretty adverse conditions. And the Texas is still in Shinnecock. They hope to get it back out off of, Sacaponic in Friday, I believe they said. And they're just working along Liberty Island, which is the other dredge, which is up on the west end. Unfortunately, that dredge is going to be departing permanently on March 24th.
Oh,
So they're trying, but this weather is certainly hindering the process. I don't believe they have gotten to Gibson yet. I think they're still coming towards that.
they made it to Greenwich property.
Okay,
Yeah.
and the trustee, Chip Marin asked whether or not they wanted to have the Gibson Beach entrance blocked off. They said they don't need it at this point, but if it changes, they're gonna let them know. So if that changes, then a Marine Patrol will go out and block the entrance to Gibson. So there we go.
I have a couple comments.
Okay.
There's a sign between Sagmain and Gibson, danger submerged line, high pressure.
Mhm.
And it goes under the dunes. Does anyone know anything about that? It's a big thing coming out of the water and
Yep.
it goes under the dunes, right around where Johnny White's.
Well, that's how they pump. I mean, I've been down there. Bill, you've been down there.
I
once.
walked past it,
But that's how they pump the water into the sand onto the beach.
yeah.
No, this isn't on the beach. This is under the dunes.
I know,
Isn't that
yesterday-
coming out of the water? That's coming out of the water.
No, that's just another piece of it.
I have no idea.
And,
I've never seen it through the dunes. I watched them do the whole project. I've never seen them go through a dunes in the pipe. So
Yeah.
it's kind of,
it's underneath, well, they hadn't gotten here yet, so maybe
And
it's
where
just
is this?
another component to whatever, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
between Sagmain and Gibson, right in front of Johnny White's
Okay,
cottage.
I'll ask him.
Yeah, that's a good
Then
question.
the other thing is.
Send me those pictures.
Okay,
I'll ask
the
them.
other thing is, to the west of Sagmain, here are these guys coming down the road with their.
Yeah.
I noticed there's a huge indent near the pond, but not at where the pond lets out. It's up to the dunes. And a little jitney came trolling down the beach to let me know to be aware of all the large trucks coming in and out. And I said, yes. And I said, what's going on with the indent of the ocean coming up to the dunes so majorly in that one spot? He said, well, all the truck traffic has created a hole and the ocean's come up. So that's because they're all situated at Sagmain and they've got
Yeah,
all this traffic. Just wanted you to be aware
yeah, okay.
that it's not, I mean, it's something that the ocean's gotten used to now, and now we're gonna have to contend with that.
I don't think so. Send me that as well, and then I will get an explanation for you. They're not gonna leave that like that.
No, I know
mean,
they're
can't.
not, but what I'm saying is it's already happened.
Mhm.
And so the ocean knows there's a weak spot in there, you know?
Yeah, but send it to me,
I will.
because I'll get an explanation, because I mean, these guys
See,
that
I mean,
I'm
look,
meeting with are
This
so.
is not even having it opened, and it's all the way up to the dune.
Well, you know they opened Sac Pond. Sac Pond is draining right now.
Yeah, this was
Okay.
when it wasn't open.
It's been open for a week.
It's been
and a half.
opening and closing, opening
Yes,
and closing. Mhm.
Okay, all right, well, send them to me and
All
I'll
right,
get you some answers. And just know that when you do go down there, you can actually, if you want, get into the site with your hard hats and everything, but you have to let me know because you have to watch the video and they will take you inside and give you a little tour.
Yeah,
But you have to have all the safety equipment on and you have to watch the video
yeah.
because of all the equipment and the
I'm not
safety issues.
complaining, I'm
No, I'm
just
not saying
saying,
that. I'm just telling you
posing
that-
questions
That
and
you have an
wondering.
opportunity, if you would like, to go down there. And if you do want to go down there, just let me know, and I'll tell them that you'll be down there. And there is a short video that you would have to watch, and they would have to make sure you have the equipment. And they just said on this morning that it's like steel toe toe and all that
Maybe we
there.
should all go.
But if you want, let me know, and I can certainly get you
I would like to,
inside the ropes.
I would like to see it.
All right, so
Gotta have steel-toed shoes.
I will let them know
Okay.
that
Please, man.
that you want to do it.
I'd like to do it.
And then I think I have the email with the video that you have to watch. But I'll let them know. Does anybody else want to? Okay, if you change your mind, let me know.
Yeah, I might, but I gotta think about it.
The only other comment I would make is that they did go almost 400 feet into East Hampton from Town Line Road on the replenishment, so it's a nice benefit for them.
Put that in our letter to them.
You don't think?
Oh, you tell me?
Or say it washes down. Okay.
Porta John at Sag Bridge, I know, I was hoping you convinced me I'm wrong.
I just don't think it's an appropriate place, and there's one down at Sag Main most of the year, and we could probably ask it to be all of the year since
Well,
we.
we've been asking for that.
Well, why don't we just plan on it? And have it ours to put up, and ask them for permission for us to have a porta john there year round.
Right,
It's only like 3 months that they don't have it there.
yeah. What about Porta Johns? You know, there's one right over here on the side of the road. They're visible all over the place.
You mean construction sites?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, they're temporary,
well, they're there for a year or two.
temporary.
I don't know, I see, people we've got all these initiatives with, the researchers, they're doing these, I don't know, what, they dig a trench and they put, bark and chips and stuff in them to try to catch nitrogen going into the pond. I was reading something just recently about, the analysis of, what's in the water, what the, pollutants are. I think you gave money to the Sag Pond project, trying to clean it up. You know, I know there's duck hunters down there. in the
Isn't it
winter.
mostly from the homes that reside on the
There are a
pond?
number of sources,
And I think the homes was the most.
well. I don't think that helps having people discharge into the pond. Anyway,
Where would they actually put it?
by the deer fence, that's the best place.
And deer fences where it waits,
Yeah, White's. I think one of it.
so it's far away from the brick or relatively.
Well, I think it's less visible. I know the last go around on this, I think Bill said to move it across the road. And then Bill didn't want it, you didn't want it at all.
I don't want it at all.
Yeah,
Right now, it's such a mess down there with papers and stuff strewn from people doing their, I don't understand how the theory behind fishing there and then peeing in the water you're picking the fish out of. It's a little above my intelligence. But
There's other
I
toxins.
fear that if we make it more convenient for the people to stop there, we're gonna have even more trash down there. And right now, it's a mess between the papers, and the people don't even pick up their beer cans and stuff. So I think it's just a porta potty is just gonna make it look even more uninviting as you go.
Do they need fishing permits?
no, it's brackish water. As far as I know, they don't need a freshwater permit.
I don't know.
Sick the cops on them.
Well, I mean, you look at who's there, a lot of them are the people who provide service to the area,
That's true.
yeah. I mean, traditionally, when I fished there, most of the people I fished with were, black laborers.
Mhm.
They liked having me there because they didn't want eels and I did, and they didn't have to cut their lawn and Mostly women, they didn't want to touch the things.
Is there a garbage can down
No.
there? No.
There was way back in history, but the town, you know, I'm trying to think, a few months ago, they had the director of the town's waste management program on talking about budget and what they spend on this, that, and the other thing, where revenue comes from, streams of stuff. And they're way in the red. And so years ago, they stopped a lot of that. The only place they seem to do are the beaches now. Yeah, I don't know whether that, it might help.
I just, if they're congregating there, if they're fishing,
Yeah,
I wouldn't call it brackish water, I'd call it.
well, polluted water, but
Polluted water.
technically it's brackish. You don't find freshwater fish in it.
There's a lot of garbage down there right now.
Why, they could have a provide garbage service? Yeah,
I don't know, but I mean, the beer cans, there's
yeah.
it's a mess.
Jaime Lopez told me that he goes down sometimes and talks to the people and picks up garbage, but I don't think he does it every day.
Who does?
Jaime Lopez,
Maryland.
Oh,
Maryland
okay.
says-
Maryland, okay,
yeah. They speak Spanish, so
yeah.
which helps. I want to see it down there. I mean, that's, I'll make a motion to put a porta john, put a screen around it like we did at the other places. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No,
Post,
Opposed?
well, you can use the bow if you have to.
I can buy them anytime when I was thinking about, what it would look like to have it there,
Yeah,
and I decided it was just as easy to go home.
Yeah.
well, we can,
It's easy for you.
we can plant
I
some.
don't know who's the intention, who was our attention to help by having this?
Well, the ecosystem of the pond and the people
Well, then
who
say no.
are down there. You know,
Maybe on
sometimes
your boat.
there's women and children,
Tell me right.
you know, it's, and they probably drove a lot, I don't think they're living in our community.
I am sensitive where it would be though, so we have to think carefully where you actually want it to be.
Yeah, if you go down, there's the corner of the fence, at the corner, there's a little white sign that identifies the guys who put the fence up. That'd be the place. There's a bush off to one side. and-
Is it underground,
What?
the porta john?
No.
Not a good idea.
So it could be,
Elevated.
Just dig it.
We can plant something on it.
yeah.
I'll donate a vine, grow it over it. Grow
Have
grapes.
flowers all around it.
But what about on the south side, where that ramp is?
Well, as we don't have a sign on it that says, welcome to Sagaponic.
Welcome to the agricultural community.
But in the, the bushes, the reeds
Yeah,
there
well,
that might,
then we'd have to maintain the bushes. The fence is maintained and it's grass over there.
I
It's
know that
mowed
was
and
one of the
stuff.
spots originally.
Yeah, originally I thought, and then I thought Bill dissuaded, he said the north side, and then he said no, so.
So is there any recourse to take it down if for some reason, things
Sure.
aren't working out?
It's not
Yeah,
permanent.
I'm all for that if it doesn't work out, but I think we also should make sure there's plantings around it and stuff to make it
Yeah.
at least look like.
This is the entry to our village,
Yeah.
Oh, nice porta john.
Well, I think we should, if we're gonna do it, we should make it as significant, it's not just a fence. Not to, we try and hide it somehow.
Yeah,
I think we try to hide it and we put plantings around.
right, okay.
So
And
how
look, if it
how
doesn't
will
work
people
out-
know it's there? You'll have
Oh,
to
they'll
put up
know,
a
they'll
sign,
find it.
We'll find it.
The fishermen will find.
he here.
There's been a request for a front porch allowance from various designers. And actually, when I started to talk to the people on the AHRB, some of them had wanted it years ago when they built their houses, believe it or not, I was surprised. And the idea was that you either have a front porch or you have an additional bedroom on the house. And so it's been floated in front of the AHRB for quite a while, and they finally came up with a recommendation that that type of allowance just on the side of the house that shows, where instead of having a big blank wall with windows, you have a more inviting front porch. That if we provided some kind of square foot allowance beyond the GFA that we have now, that people would not, they would put the porch on, which they would like to see, and would dress up a lot of the houses. That was
With the
their,
big hedge in front of the home?
well, I know, but that's their recommendation.
They made a recommendation, right?
Oh, yeah, we've got.
There's a letter in your packet from the
Yeah.
HRB.
Is that, are they talking about a screened-in porch?
No, I think just nothing that's habitable.
Right.
Yeah,
But it's
just,
not supposed to be part of the GF, right? Is this the
Correct.
purpose of
So
this?
this
So
was-
all it is
Just allow them to
it
have.
doesn't, that has nothing to do with who put hedges or anything in front. It just
Correct.
allows them to use it for the total
Correct.
square footage.
Just the simple concept is to allow them to put a front porch out front and not have it calculated into your GFA, your gross.
That's
floor
all it
area.
is, right?
Just add on an open porch.
Yeah.
Now,
That's what I
the
thought.
board can consider whether screens are allowed. I mean, I can kind of see screens actually, because that was kind of a historic use, but not enclosed, not glassed, a regular traditional open front porch, columns, roof, railing, grandma, rocking chair.
And what was I'm sorry, I didn't look at, I didn't see.
It's
that.
after the purple tab under correspondence.
So how much was it? How much have they?
oh, they didn't
The,
come up with a
the local
number,
law
but
is not drafted yet.
Right.
This is, you're discussing what you want. The concept was put before the AHRB so they could weigh in whether they thought this was a good thing to encourage porches if they wanted to do so. And so they have decided that they did. That is the recommendation to you. Now you have to decide how you want to draft that local law, what you want in it and what you don't want in it.
Well, I think so that we don't have some of the people sort of taking on and trying to subjugate the different areas within the thing. I think the idea of having it in the front and make sure that it's in the front of the house. We have to be very specific that it's in, again, the ARB debated this, you could sit there and put something on the side and all of a sudden there's a porch on the side. And in the back, and it's just, all you're
So
doing,
if-
but making sure that it's in the front.
Correct.
And making sure, I think,
Yep.
that they can't use it as, it's supposed to be so that neighbor to neighbor, can actually talk or.
So
walk
what
by.
if they have to get a variance to put it on? That's a no-go,
they're
right?
right, they won't get it.
You don't get it, correct.
So we just,
Well, I mean, they would have a freebie of X amount of square feet. So if you're gonna build a house and it's gonna have.
No, I mean, if the house is already built.
Oh, you're going, I mean, if it's already built, it's not gonna apply
Yeah,
to
you're not adding it on, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be going
Oh.
forward.
So renovations, if you're beyond the variance point, if you've got a long front lawn, you're doing a renovation, you wanna add a porch, you can't add the gross floor area, it's already committed to something else. The concept is, and there are variances come up before ARB on this question, to put a front porch on. And again, like we're thinking of the concept is a traditional front porch.
But that's a good question, Brian. If I have a house and I'm okay with all my square
Alright.
footage, I didn't need variance or anything, but I wanna put a front porch on. And I wanna put 100 and whatever
150 square feet, say,
that you wanna put on. Wouldn't I be able to use that allowable square footage on that?
you could, but unless you're beyond the setback.
Oh, yeah, that's
Of the front
different.
lawn.
Yeah, that's a whole different, yes,
Right.
you're right.
Yes.
If I'm up against my front line, then I don't have the space for it.
Right.
That's what-
True,
That's what I.
yes,
what Karen
okay,
was asking
got
about
it, sorry,
variance,
missed that part of it.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna allow them to go in front of it
So if they did want
without a
to,
variance.
right, so if they did want to do that under that scenario, they would have to go for a front yard setback,
Variance, correct,
but they wouldn't have to go for the square footage because that's your freebie.
correct.
so this is,
The other thing is positioning the house, I guess the recommendation, if you read the recommendation, they want it on the road so that it's a front porch, it's visual on the. Because if it's on a flag lot and it's all of a sudden, you can, you know, what is the front of a house?
Correct.
On a flag lot, it would,
Yeah.
some
Yep.
weird.
Again, so as we draft the law, we're not gonna want the exceptions to swallow the general rule. But the general rule is gonna be 99.9% is gonna be very self-evident in the village. Yes, you will have the 1%ers, that's gonna be corners and those kind of things, you'll figure it out, but even those, you'll be pretty good at figuring out what your front door is. Front facing.
I'm just.
Well, facing the street,
Correct.
where it's a public benefit to the look of the house.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think some of, when we heard from some of the designers, they wanted a lot more, obviously. But this is something that's consistent, at least with the vibe of the, you know, of the village, so.
Correct.
So,
We're gonna try to, I'm sorry.
no,
Yeah.
I think this isn't everything they want, and I'm close, but it certainly protects us for at least the look and the feel of what the village houses should be or could be like from
Yeah.
having the front.
We're gonna draft it in a way, and we'll express it at the public hearing too, that it's a traditional front porch, it's not a pavilion,
Right.
it's not an entertainment
Facility.
picnic area. It is to wave to your neighbor, get packages on the front porch.
On the rocking chair.
Sit, correct, sit
On
on
the
the rocking
rocking
chair
chair.
and read the Sunday New York Times or whatever you're reading.
And this will be
Southampton Press.
another public.
Yes,
hearing.
yeah, it's gonna be
Yes.
changed to the
Yeah,
code.
we have to change the
Has to
code,
be.
correct. So I anticipate probably May, June, as it works its way through the process, but I'll probably have it in May or June. the year.
Right. So I know the AH will be, spent a lot of time on this, right?
Yes.
It wasn't just one meeting, they spent a lot of
Yes.
time on, because, okay.
So they still would be able to put a porch on with a variance
Well, so
or space.
You mean right now, the way the code is written right now?
No, when it changes.
you could apply for one, you'd have to get, if you want to put a porch on and inside the setback, the front yard setback, anybody can apply for a variance.
Yes, I think we shouldn't allow them if they have to get a variance.
No, why don't we do that?
Yeah, you could always allow, everybody's always allowed to apply for a variance, doesn't mean that they get them.
I see.
All this does is, what this is making the choice of, we'll give you a free 6-foot, 8-foot porch. Traditional porch, we'll give you a porch, you don't have to take it off of the back of your house or somewhere.
Yeah, I got it.
You know, instead of this flat,
Yeah, I know there are some builders that wanted it big in the back,
yeah,
and
no,
so
that's not what we're allowed.
that's not what we're doing. Good.
Correct.
Okay.
You can't reverse grandfather.
It's a nice look.
It is
on the
nice.
front
It
porch,
is.
yes. But I can think of 5 houses right now in Sagaponic that had a front porch, and then it was screened in, and then it was glassed in,
Yep,
and then there was a couple cots out there or a
And then it
picnic
was
table.
hedged.
And it's totally, it's become,
I think
Yeah.
that's gotta be some part of this.
it's gotta be open.
That's gotta be open, has to be an open.
It's very easy for us to do, we'll
Cover
call
it
it
open.
non-habitable space, but early 20th century, that's what happened as these houses evolved, right?
yeah,
They went from a porch to a screened-in porch to a glassed-in porch to the front part of your living room.
yeah.
And it looks weird, you know, your front door is actually in one, now the front door is out to the
Yeah.
front, that's not the purpose.
I can think of the Forster house has a front porch, not closed in, not sealed out, not screened in, it's a front porch. My house that I grew up in had a beautiful wraparound front porch, and my father screened it in, I'm sure there was no building permits back then, screened it in, and now as you drive by that house, the Geismers are out there having breakfast and lunch and dinner out there. It's beautiful. It's a nice look. But I can see these, no offense to architects, but I can see them finagling in their
Oh, yeah.
head.
Oh, yeah.
Get this little front porch, we'll close it in,
Oh,
or make it
yeah.
a Florida
Close it
room.
backward, yeah.
And
I think this is I think this is good. I think if we draft this right,
Yeah.
should be,
it's gonna take a little work.
Yeah,
yeah.
we're up for it.
Make sure.
Yeah, you're
We could talk about screening, you know, I think screening probably is okay, right? A screen porch.
Yeah,
For bugs, summertime, screening I
bugs,
can
yeah.
see, but you don't wanna have any kind of permanent glass, no Florida room,
No,
nothing,
no.
okay, right.
I know, a lot of, some of them
About bug spray.
have a wall and then just a screen above it,
Yeah.
and a sliding window.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well, we can define all that.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it still has to go before the AHRB,
yeah.
Well.
so you can't just put a porch on.
The design itself.
The design
Yes,
itself,
once you
yeah.
design,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
So if they don't,
That's true.
yeah.
true.
okay.
So Brian will draft a
The first
We'll
draft, yeah.
you present it in April, take a look at it, if you need anything changed. Or if you're satisfied with it at that point, then we can set the public hearing after that.
Yeah.
I will also, once I get the draft, give it to the AHRB, so they can review it as well.
Right.
April may be a tad aggressive, but we'll see if we can get it there.
May,
I wanna look at some of the plans that proposed portions and got them sliced off.
Okay.
I wanna see what those look like,
okay,
cause I wanna avoid some fast pulls, but.
Yeah.
Yeah,
got it.
exactly. Good. Crosswalk at Sag Store.
Just wanted to give everybody an update on that.
Oh, okay.
If you recall last month, you agreed to have the mayor sign that, we briefly talked about the current building and allowed him to sign off on a access easement for the store to kind of spiff that up there. And then what you have in your packet is the design with the raised crosswalk in front of Sag Store that we're gonna do. They're gonna start next week, so I just wanted to show you this to let you know what we're doing out there. Sag Store knows.
Shutting down segment,
Excuse me?
if it be shutting down segment.
Well,
It doesn't take
traffic
very
will
long.
definitely be limited when they're doing this, but they're pretty good at not shutting down traffic completely. They'll just be down to one lane at
They
one.
took all our recommendations and that we gave them, right? And encompassed our final recommendations.
Yeah, we left the fine details up to the engineers, right?
Okay.
Bill and I were
Yeah,
both
we met
at
with
the site meetings.
Peterman, Jim Peterman down there yesterday, and it's quite interesting to see him work.
Mhm.
I think he sees it on the pavement, and he's got his tape out, and he's lining up and measuring and measuring.
Spray can.
How wide is it?
And what, I couldn't, he had something, and then some, because he was talking to the guys who were gonna cut the
It's actually
pavement
Steve.
and put in the drainage.
Oh, yeah.
and the other side.
8 feet.
8 feet, okay.
That's the top of it, I think. But it's whatever the
Right.
highway code requires. I mean, he had the all this formula in his head and he was like, you'll see there's a whole
And
bunch
how
of.
tall is it?
It's
4
it's-
inches?
Maybe
It's
six,
low.
6, yeah,
It is low.
something like this.
Yeah, I think it's 3 inches.
Yeah, 3 inches.
Oh, wait a minute, there's a
The,
diagram.
landscape
It is there.
architect said 6, but you can't put 6 inches in there.
That's a bump.
It's kind of
Yeah.
hard.
It's not good for the land bugs.
Yeah,
Wait, I'm looking for the profile. Yeah, I don't know. 3 inches,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
yeah.
That's
Good.
So they'll be starting that next week.
Okay.
And the contractor that we're paying for the outside of the curb and the owner of the store is paying for inside the curb. And the contractor that's doing the work for us, Rosemar, is also gonna do the work for them, so there won't be any,
So it should be seamless.
Exactly.
Do we
Yeah.
know when they're opening or when they think they're opening?
They have a tentative opening, they're shooting for the middle of April. So,
The post office is shooting for the same dates.
right, yes, and that's really what's, not that they don't want to open, but the post office is, they were the ones that held us up for a year, but they're the ones that want to get back in there immediately. So there you go.
The only thing I'm remembering, there's 2 trees in the front.
That's
Yeah,
part of the work.
Zelkovas.
Yeah, they're gonna come out. and
They're
gonna
coming out?
replace them. Yes.
But they're gonna be replaced by,
Yeah, that was,
Yes.
Redwoods. What is
Something
it?
different, not
Red-
Zelkovas. It's what's there.
Yeah, but the red,
and
red something's.
Maple?
they'll be centered to the.
no, it was red maple. Yeah.
Red bud maples.
Red buds, that's
Yeah.
what red bud
Red
maples.
Red buds.
It's very messy.
Slightly, because when the building went back, it kind of moves over, so they're moving it over a little bit.
So the trees are gonna center.
It lines up with the door, yeah,
Yeah, they're gonna be centered, they're gonna move to the north of here.
Are those really messy trees, Bill?
which, red bud?
Yeah.
No, they're really slow growing, kind of docile thing,
I mean, messy.
no.
No, I have them in mind. They're nice trees.
What about the
Actually, they
trees
look
that are
nice in
there?
the winter.
What about the trees that are there? You're gonna relocate them?
They're out.
They're gone.
No,
They're
I'm
gone?
You wanna
not
go?
gonna dig them out of there.
They're maples, I think, right?
Zelkovas.
Yes, it's not cold.
You're not listening.
It's an okay tree, but it's too big.
Yeah.
It's up in the wires.
Yeah.
Richie put them
I
in.
don't have that. Look,
Yeah,
There you go.
that's a horrible look.
it is.
So that's the update on that.
Thank you.
These captains respectful.
That was quick. That was a quick no.
Like said no on parking on town line road.
That was a quick no.
Cooperative, we're gonna cooperate on everything except
So-
paving town line road and parking.
So, right, so, speaking about the paving, I think I sent you guys an email. I witnessed a bike got hit on Town Line Road. And so I know, I think it's scheduled for the fall, right, our paving?
Yep.
Yes.
The sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned. There is no shoulder available.
I have a question. Are we widening the road also? Our
We can't
half?
much,
Then we don't
A
have
little
much
bit.
down to there.
a little bit.
Like, what would it be?
Well, it varies, the property lines, we have a uneven right of way and the phone poles in a lot of places are close to the road. So we got a little bit,
So how wide will the one-way traffic be?
the same as everywhere else.
10 feet?
Yeah, 10 feet,
And then 2 feet?
If we have
no
it.
idea, no idea, whenever we give the engineer the surveys for the road and
He'll let us
he'll
know.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Bill's right. There are some telephone poles that are closer in on our property than others. There's apparently some
Yeah.
variances that some of the other properties have that go out to the edge of the road.
yeah.
So it's an unusual thing, but it is, right now, it is incredibly dangerous.
It is. And just as a side note, I noticed someone's concern and mine was how we blend in the northbound and the southbound lanes and stuff. And parts of Ocean Road is
Half and half.
different lanes.
Yeah,
There's asphalt on a good part of it from Church Lane, I guess it is, to or Hildreth Lane it is, to Main Street. The southbound traffic is asphalt, northbound is cement. So they do coincide pretty good.
Do
yeah,
we have,
Which
is there a marking down the middle of the road?
Yeah, there's marking down the middle.
There's a line.
Two lines or one?
Two,
Two
lines,
yellows
yeah.
to go.
Can't pass.
Yeah.
So one line will be new and the other line will not be new.
Well, that's assuming they don't go along, but I mean, you know, right now, they're just refusing to do any work in Waynesville, so.
Fortunately, the town has a very small budget for their 300 miles of roads in East Hampton town. They only budget $600,000 a year, which doesn't get you a lot. And that's why Steve, the highway superintendent, is, I mean. they
Was
just-
that Steve?
No, not that Steve.
Oh.
I can't remember his last name. Anyway, they just didn't feel this one
I just,
rose to the.
we just have an obligation to do our
Yeah,
side.
and I've told them that, I thank them for their response and they go to email. Oh, I think I sent to everybody. Anyway. I told them if they change their mind that we will be doing it in September if they'd like to join us, and so there you go. We've been at this for a
oh, the
while.
budget, the budget.
Okay, Bill. Would you like me to do
Absolutely.
the highlights? Couple things, one is the assessment went up a little bit, as you can see. But the tax rate has remained the same. The budget has increased. Excuse me, while I find my page here. 80,000. Thank you. Steady. No, 11,000 over last year.
Oh.
So it's 11,000 over last year's budget. 11,090.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's great.
Yep.
With salary increases of 9.65%. Remembering the highlights, Bill, of the. Let's see, I'll just go
Not
through
much
that.
change.
No. Let's, did increase, you'll see the increase in, under legal, under the council retainer where we've never budgeted before, but that has to do with our, town lines road issue. Put more money into the village hall improvements. Or painting, just a little spruce up, we got to redo the parking lot. The fence is falling down out front, that has to be redone. We put another 5,000 in road maintenance. That's where I take out the, the maintenance of the crosswalks, the speed bumps and porta johns. Those are the highlights. We did reduce the highway capital reserve transfer from 375 to 275, so that's a reduction of 100,000. Those are the highlights. Anybody have any questions?
And so, I'm sorry,
That's okay.
this is the first I saw this, so,
I did email it to you, David.
I know.
Just- But that's fine. Okay,
Okay, so this year we're running,
I had a schedule, so. to speak.
yeah, so, okay, and it's a modest increase in the budget, right? It's not anything significant whatsoever.
Mhm, correct.
So is there anything, legal is always an issue that we never know, right? Is that kind of the variable cost? Is there any other variable cost out here that we would be
That and
missing?
the salaries or the,
Those are fixed, once we do them, they're fixed,
Uh-huh.
right? So it really just legal is the somewhat unknown category.
Correct.
Okay, good, thank you.
You're welcome.
We need to set a public hearing for this before our next meeting, and we'll play a day on the next meeting.
Right, by law, it has to be set
By
by
law.
April 15th.
Yeah,
Our meeting is April 16th. So,
we need to have a meeting the week before, 3 p.m.
right, that would be the 9th, April 9th.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to set a public hearing to hear the budget on April 9th, 3 p.m.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
3 P.M.
3 p.m.
Yeah. Bring jelly donuts, I'll be here too.
Yeah, you can feel like those.
No.
And all are in favor on that? I'm assuming we took a vote. I was waiting.
Donuts?
Okay.
Yeah. The same as last year.
Right, so the reason you have these tent permits before you is because they are asking to keep their tents up longer than what the code allows. And so they have done it the past many years on the Poxbog. I think it was pre-COVID. Old Stove Pub started in 2020 when COVID hit for the outside dining.
Yeah, I haven't heard any complaints on any of that.
No?
No, it's kind of nice to see the
So it's,
junior. officers.
May to September.
And the one from Poxbog, they actually own that tent, but there's kids under there and just to be on the safe side, we just felt it would be just best to give them a tent permit for it.
Make a motion to approve those?
Can
Second.
I have two separate motions,
Okay,
if you wouldn't mind?
make a motion to approve the tent permit for Foxabog Golf Center.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Make a motion to approve the Old Stove Pub tent permit. All in favor? Oh,
Second.
second, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Just want to point out though that the tent for the Old Stove Pub has 2 heating tanks,
Mhm.
2 propane tanks for heating.
Yep.
I'll need it.
And I see Joe is on here, from
Hey, Joe.
also Joe Christopher, if you have any questions for him.
Hi, how are you?
Good,
Sorry,
how
I'm outside of my daughter's gymnastics class, so I wish I was there.
We just approved you.
Thank you.
You've been approved.
Thank you. And to answer the propane tank, it is for, one of those commercial heaters. I've only used them a few times, so it's not an ongoing, thing that needs to be there on a regular basis. It's like kind of as needed.
Yeah.
So,
They're the same ones you have in the front, right? The outside, the
yes.
outside. Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
And-
it is for tent heating or large space heating, and they have to be secure, and the fire marshal inspects that all. So
The fire marshal does inspect before he gets his permit. Any other questions for Joe?
Nope.
No?
Thanks,
Thanks, Joe.
hope everyone's well. Thank you so much.
Take care.
All right, take care. Thanks, Rhodey.
Special event permit for the Massive Peak Cliff Park Fun Club. For the Hamptons, September 21st. All right.
You would care.
And that's a repeat. They've
Many years.
Yeah, they're going to be Sunday, September 21st, from 6 AM to 6 PM. This is a pretty big bike. Miles, but anyway, 700 to attend and 90 to work the event. They have a map for us, and they have different miles, 52 miles, 70 mile, 103 miles. And they run from Bridge Lane, Cemetery Lane, Gibson, Daniels, Town Line, Hedges, Sag Main to Sag Road. That's different, isn't it? I don't remember them coming back through
No,
Sag Road.
that's a short one.
Oh, okay.
So then
Oh,
the
this one.
longer ones just exit out of Daniels. Now,
Montauk Highway. Oh, what's before that? Oh, this is the Sag Road exit.
Right.
Over Hedges.
Right.
And then this is Montauk Highway, but where do they come onto Montauk Highway? That's there. What road is this? This is Wainscott Harbor Road.
yeah, so they're, meaning
Oh,
they're
that's outside of Sagaponic.
entering the village on Montauk Highway, and then they're gonna go up Wainscott Harbor, and they're exiting out of the village on Wainscott Harbor Road.
Okay, Wainscott Harbor. Is that in Sagaponic?
Yep, it's just past, and if you flip it back one page, go to the last page is what I'm trying to say. Here is all of the contributors, the
charities.
charities that they contribute to, and the amounts that they contribute.
Southampton School District, the Retreat, Southampton Fresh Air Home, the Bridgehampton Museum, Bridgehampton Child Care, and New York Viking Coalition, the most going to Southampton School District.
That's a great thing to showcase the goal.
Any questions?
Perfect.
I'll make a motion that we accept this permit.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bird Summer Party. July 26th.
There's 233 hedges. I'm looking for that.
Is that by you?
I don't think so. I think it's the other way.
Oh.
I'm 600.
It's further west,
Further west. For July 26th, a Saturday, 7:30 PM to 11:30 PM. And it is a 40 by 80 tent and a 15 by 40 surface tent, 120 people to attend. 30 for the event people. 25 vehicles, there will be a valet company, it's People Pool. They will not have on-site security. They will have porta johns. No, they won't have porta johns, I'm sorry. The guests will use restrooms located in the pool house. There will be a speaker under the tent. The music is a DJ under the tent. The lighting is bistro lights in the tent. The 40 by 80 Navitrap tent, that's one of those metal ones, isn't it? Not sure. And then the parking for the employees are gonna be behind the house. The staff is gonna be, is this another road?
This is the flag line into the house itself, and the house is,
Right.
and I think it's this one. Don't you remember you and I went down last year?
Yeah.
It's this house. So this is an open field.
Okay, the open field as you enter their roadway is where the staff will park, and the guests are parking off hedges to the north on the open field. I think I would have put staff over
I
there and the
agree.
guests closer
I
to the
agree with
party,
you.
but whatever.
Yeah. So they have the valet people.
That's why they have the valet people. Any questions?
Nope.
All right, I make a motion that we accept this permit for the party on July 26th, 25.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The assembly permit. That was just for an assembly, that wasn't,
It's,
oh, it's Charlotte?
yeah,
Per se?
per se.
All right.
Pay the bills. Anything else, Rody, before we pay the bills?
No,
Is there a discussion item?
oh, yeah, David wanted to bring,
Yeah, I just want to bring two things up.
Sure.
That's okay. And this is, this had one a very exciting thing, which is, it's being done, with the help of the Southport Land Foundation and the Peconic Land, in conjunction with the Peconic Land Trust, and that is, working with Cornell Cooperative Extension. They've come and presented here a few times. They're going to be installing PRBs, which are permanent reactive barriers. These are things that they are going to put in wells on just off of Sag Pond on the Bridgehampton side, I believe, right? Is that where that property is? And it's pretty neat. We had a presentation. I believe we're going to have another presentation that the Peconic Land Trust is going to do later this month. Really,
It's supposed to be tomorrow.
it's tomorrow
Oh,
night.
this is tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's kind of exciting, if it works, I believe it does, they prove it. What they do is they drill, these 1 inch pen, 1 inch as deep as 40 feet into, on the size of the field. And what they get to do is measure the amount of nitrogen that's coming in and off, that's coming into the pollution of the Sag Pond. And remediation of it, and they're like charcoal barriers. It's a really cool technology. So that's kind of exciting. Hopefully that helps with Sag Pond.
So the charcoal goes down to 1 inch hole.
It goes down, they have it, it's an incredible process, and you'll hear about it if you go tomorrow. They have these machines that go down. It doesn't interfere with any of the farming or the fields. It's gonna be on one of the fields. It's actually on the Highland Parish Preserve, which is directly opposite of, on the other side, on the west side of Sag Pond. It's the big fields there. There's some homes there too, obviously, so we'll be able to measure that.
Maybe we could get a sample before the porta john goes in,
Yeah.
and then after a few months, we can get another sample to see how well it's working.
Well, hopefully it works, because Sag Pond is it's highly polluted, so, and I wouldn't eat a thing out of that thing. I can't believe.
It's always been.
Yeah. So a lot of it is obviously septic systems as well, but it also could be leaching in from the Bridgehampton Club. They just don't know, of course. So it could be, the farm fields clearly have a history of it as well. But I think it's pretty cool. It's a really neat technology. So it's tomorrow. When is it tomorrow, Cody?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. And where's
7 o'clock.
that going to be?
It's a Zoom.
Oh, it's a
I'm
Zoom.
gonna resend this to you guys again tomorrow.
Yeah, send it. I think it's terrific. They present it to us, and it could be a game changer.
Where did they present it? Bridgehampton Club?
No, they presented it to the Southport Land Foundation. which is the property that is, they're putting the facilities on. Yeah, the wells are only 1 inch in diameter and they go down almost 40 feet as I read this thing. It's pretty amazing. And doesn't interfere with any of the farming that goes on in the fields. So we'll see, you know, it's a great start. It's all been pre-funded. So there's no cost
This is just to find out how much issue there is.
yeah, and it also, it should help remediate some of the
Maybe
nitrogen.
we don't need the water John
We don't need what?
then. Water John. We're getting all this other stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. So I just want to report that. And the other thing is that, I believe there's also a piece of property that's gonna be, it's a big piece of field on 600 Daniels Lane. That's Peter Ludlow's gonna request from us. I think he already has, hasn't he? He hasn't come to us yet about putting up a deer fence around the whole property. So just want to make people aware of that. But I think he has to apply.
Yes.
He does. Okay. I thought he did. I thought he did come by. He did not? Okay. And again, that's a piece of property. I have a picture of it. It goes all the way to Daniels.
That's the old Galban property, right?
Correct.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just got approval for new house back.
They're tearing down.
No, they're not tearing it down, but
They're keeping the barn.
no, there's 2 barns there, I think.
It's a beautiful barn there.
Oh my gosh. What they're shifting, they're keeping one, and I don't remember which one it is, and they're shifting it to the west.
You might want to check Abby told me that they'd come in and.
I'm telling you, David.
You did?
Do
Okay.
not file it.
All right. Well, I didn't say he filed it. I thought he picked up an application.
Oh, you may have picked up an application.
Yeah, so he knows what to do, is what I'm saying.
I've had to,
Could be years before.
another one pick up an application, and that's over at 511.
Okay.
So, yes, but there is no applications here in this office for any ag fences.
Okay.
What's the
They can also
update on
get
the
them offline
cell tower?
too. All of our forms are online as well. So even if he didn't come into the office, he may have gotten it offline.
Yeah, as long as he knows the process is all I'm asking about.
I haven't spoken to him. The cell tower is,
Cell tower,
yeah,
where are we at with that?
I did get an update from the contractor who said that the Verizon is waiting for a T1 line. And they expect it to be here in the next couple of weeks. As soon as they get that, then it will go live. So there you go.
I think people need to stop asking us and complain to their carriers. Because they're the guys who are holding it up. We're only asked every week what's going on.
Yeah.
If maybe people bombard AT&T and Verizon and all of them, they'll get their tail in gear.
That could be your next newsletter, Bill.
Ah, good point.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
There you go.
Or we could put it on Instagram.
Well, hopefully it'll-
Well, we did, we wouldn't have a newsletter. You'd be good.
Let's pay bills. I make a motion to expend to the general fund $65,848.73. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to expend from the tree fund $15,950.
No.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Make a motion to expend from the trust and agency planning fund $1,740.75. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And make a motion to expend from the capital highway fund $762.50.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We have something to sign, Marie?
You do. There you go.
What do you call it, chancellor? Like,
No, Councilman.
Self-anointed myself.
That's your title.
Now time to recognize.
Yeah.
Anybody want to make a speech? No? Oh, okay, all right. Finally, we have a taker.
It's a joy to be here. See the way business is handled. Everybody's asking questions, it's a good thing. So, I'm glad I'm here. But,
Glad you're here too.
bring to you.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, Lee Foster, sorry. I guess not Lee, I mean. David was at the, last, zoning board of appeals, right?
Yes.
And I left that meeting with some concerns that I thought perhaps the board ought to, certainly. You very likely would be speaking of this anyway, but I'll bring it to your attention. There were two aspects of that meeting. One was the fencing, 8-foot fencing around gardens. I think that eventually you're going to see this happen more often, but the other part is that people have to go to the zoning board of appeals for this because it's an 8-foot fence. And the deer are going to jump over a 6-foot fence. And people want to grow vegetables. So even though I can look back when the code was hammered out and the farmers, I think unfortunately have been badly impacted by our code, but I don't want to mix it up. I think what you guys will very likely be seeing are more people with smaller gardens. I think this one was, oh, I can't remember exactly. It might have been 20 by 10, it might have been a little larger than that, and they want to put a 6-foot fence in. Was it?
You mean an 8-foot?
They want to put an 8-foot fence in order to keep the deer out from eating the peas. And to be honest with you, it's like a victory garden, and anybody who's planting one would like to know that they will harvest the fruits of their labor, you know, so it's like, for that kind of thing to have to go consistently to the zoning board of appeals seems, let's just say it's worthy of thought. And the other thing.
So you're for it?
I think so. I mean, come on. I mean, you know, it might be competition, but it's just like, you've got a beautiful garden, you have a gorgeous piece of property. It would be something that the neighbors might even have to hammer out because somebody's going to complain. But on the other hand, neighbors are neighbors. I don't know how that might unfold, but it's an issue. I'm not.
I wasn't sure which way you were going with this.
No. I mean, it's like, this is gorgeous soil. We've got beautiful, you know, weather, whatever. But I know that there will be people that will say, looking out my window, I see an 8-foot fence. I just know that it probably will become peculiar enough that people will be annoyed, but they should be able to work it out. That's what I'm saying. The other part, though, that I think might be a little bit more difficult is the whole issue of and I think this is the Galvan project that I think you folks must be aware of it. It's been in the works for months, but they wanted to put, of course, and have now a secondary, you might as well say it's a secondary home on that piece of property while they are preserving that beautiful old, they call it Greek revival. I think they do, but you know what I mean. It's that lovely white, beautiful house. And that whole issue, small lots with buildings in the rear with tunnels. And there's a lot of them in Sagapon. And I know the last one that I recall very clearly was the Nayland property, and those people bought the property anyway and never went on to do anything more. But there was an idea that had, I think, surfaced. There just wasn't any buyers at that point who was willing to put up or put in a tunnel or do something, but it's disturbing. I think these small lots, the possibility of those kinds of things happening a lot. You can tell by my expression, I think that would be hateful. But,
So it's overdeveloped, is that what you mean? 'Cause
well,
the-
it's a matter of taking a smaller property and not liking the historic residence and then doing something with a tunnel in the rear and then all of a sudden.
I think the issue is I was there for that. The issue that I saw that's a little disturbing is that they're putting dual housing on a single plot now to protect the original,
Right,
and
residence.
it doesn't really fit the norm of the village, but I'm not sure there's any legal thing about that per se. There is
Can you change the code?
Well, right now they're connected with a conditioned space, which is what they have to be in order for them to
Right.
run.
Yeah.
There's no two kitchens, there's only one kitchen, but they can have it as a guest house is what they usually do with it. But it preserves the historic structure on the property, and then everybody wants their modern house.
Like
which is what
Strong's
goes-
down on the corner
That
of
was the first one,
Parsonage and
that
Town
was the
Line.
first one in the
Yeah.
village.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's been a number of them, right?
Yeah, I don't know
You can
them.
go, you can go down Sag Road and pretty much
I want you
figure
to
out.
show me.
Well, it's a ride around, but I think in your own head, you can look at,
Yeah.
you can look
Narrow
at the
Lane has
historic
one.
district and then you can see other.
Yeah, it's not the first one
It's not.
But it is disturbing to see multiple dwellings on a single plot that's supposed to be for one dwelling. I agree.
Okay. Good for me.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I love the issue. The second, we definitely have talked about the second one at the office. We've debated what that should be with two structures, and then you're not supposed to have two residences on a property. But then the balance is you want to save the historic house. So you put the underground conditioned space in and build the second house.
Sure.
Which really is not, it's a push-pull, right? You don't want two houses on a property, but you do want that historic house to be viable. It's definitely, it's,
Well, Robert
yeah.
shared, that it was a very good discussion as they were looking at the outcome. And so it's interesting enough to review it, if you guys go on the recorded line, to get an impression as to perhaps what the rest of Sagaponic in your hands are going to have put on the table probably more.
And then the other extreme to that is there's a house down on Sag Main Street that was a historic structure that they allowed them to build onto, and this historic structure is completely lost.
Yeah, it gets swamped by the addition.
Swallowed up and
Yeah.
besides the hedge in front of it.
Which house is that?
It's two up from you. It used to be the yellow house.
Oh,
Yeah.
they incorporated the old
Incorporated.
house.
Yeah, but.
They
you can't see
literally took the old
anymore.
house and actually built it into
Swallowed
their
it
new,
up.
yeah.
So-
Well,
Gil Rogers?
Gil Rogers place.
Yeah.
It's true. You're right. But they did what the village required. Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah,
that's
that's right.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, if you look
But
at,
it's only one house.
Yeah,
In the basement.
yeah,
I
it's
think
one
there's
house.
one piece in the back there.
recent articles in the East Hampton Star where they're trying to get accessory structures on half-acre lots.
Yep.
They're talking about putting two houses on tiny lots.
Because of the housing
They're
crisis.
just
Yeah,
downzoning
because-
in East Hampton. That's what
Pardon?
it is. They're
Yeah.
downzoning. Nobody's talking about it, but that's what they're doing.
Well, they're looking for housing. That's what they're trying to do.
They're looking for housing, but I agree with that perspective, because that's the land use conclusion, is that they're downzoning all the properties.
Well, not all,
No, the properties are be subject to that,
sure.
yep.
Well, back in the days when they upzoned, it was to save groundwater. Now they're kind of working the other direction.
Yep.
They're gonna get the overpopulation and they're worried about the groundwater.
Well, then they'll sewer.
Yeah, there we go. I'll make the motion to adjourn.
With this at the next.
Oh,
It's already set.
It's set,
yeah.
You can mention it if you'd like.
I'm just following the agenda.
April 16th.
So next month I'll do the police report.
Oh, yeah. Oh, can I make
asking you about.
Popped right over
Forgot
top of
me.
it.
Oh.
I'm so excited to get to the budget.
Oh.
So wait a minute, hold on, who seconded the closing?
I did.
Okay, all right, I'm going to,
Good, good.
all in favor?
I.